Oh hello, welcome back to another video, and this is going to be my tournament report and review of the Not Kill Team Easter Eggstravaganza. Oh yes. So a little bit of background, this is my second visit to Not Kill Team, so if you've watched my video from the Christmas Clash, that's the one, that I went to, there's going to be some of this information is going to be repeating itself a little tiny bit, but also updated, you know. So it's Sanctuary Gaming Centre in Sutton in Ashfield, which is itself in Mansfield, which is itself a suburb of Nottingham. I think I got my geography right there. Okay, £20, right? Very cheap. Okay, and a local travel lodge which was about £30, which again is much cheaper than where you end up staying if you go into Warhammer World. And it was a full round tournament on a mix of Into the Dark and Open and Better Decima tables. So all three game variants, modes, all three kinds of game represented at the event, which was great. Also, lunch was provided, and there was a painting competition for Best Kill Team. So let's talk about the food and other amenities briefly. So there's a Wetherspoons next door, which opens at 8 o'clock for breakfast, which was fantastic for the price. You know, I don't think you can beat a Spoon's breakfast, really. Better than a lot of hotel breakfasts, to be fair. I ended up having breakfast. There's a lot of people in there, basically, who are going over to the tournament next door. In fact, I think we basically took over the Witherspoons for an hour, right? I ended up having breakfast with Nick Baton from Warhammer TV, and we were having a good old chat about different bits and pieces. And that was just really, it was pretty cool, you know, and it's pretty cool as well to run into the people from the channel that I knew that were like, oh, I'll watch all your stuff, so that was good as well. And obviously the guys from Not to Kill Team that I knew from last time. So I guess what I'm trying to get across is there's a lot of people in there. So if you are coming to one of these in the future, plan to go and have breakfast 8 till 9 in the Witherspoons next door, you know. Then there was lunch, which was a complimentary, included in the ticket price, Papa John's pizza buffet with plenty of pizza to be had. And I had some pizza. I had what I thought was a polite amount of pizza to make sure everyone can get some. And then when it calmed down, I went to go back and get more pizza. And then at the end of round 4, I went back to see if there was any cold pizza knocking around. And there was still 4 or 5 entire cold pizzas. So there was a lot of pizza. Hooray, right? I can't understand how he does it. He must give some money to the venue, and he has price support, which is actual products, and he buys all the pizza, and he buys all the sweets, and he charges only £20 a head. The man's a financial wizard. He should be running the country. Okay. Just while I'm on going on about food, as is customary whenever I do an event report, the Travel Lodge, the Mansfield Travel Lodge it's called, if you find yourself there in need of food, they don't have a restaurant. There's a Chippy, George's Chippy, which is in the same little retail part, really good. So, Sanctuary sell drinks and delicious homemade donuts at very reasonable prices. I didn't have a donut this time. I just had too much pizza. But the selection of actual stock is very limited, so I'll say that again. I said that last time. You know, don't go there planning to be like, oh, I'll just pick up some, some paints or something while I'm there. They had some stuff, but it's very limited. To the point where actually, and this is a real customer service thing for the Not Kill Team guys. At one point, one of my models broke because I dropped it at the end of round 3 and snapped at the ankle. And I went over to I can't remember the guy's name. The guy was working on the laptop, not Jason the TO, but his sort of second in command. And I said, "Oh, have you guys got any glue I can borrow?" Because I'd gone into the shop to try and buy some glue, didn't have any glue, right? And the guy's like, "Oh, I can get some for you." And I thought he was going to ask someone for some glue. Turns out he was going round the corner to what I assume is an Airfix shop, and came back with a pot of glue that he just bought. And then I glue my model back together. I gave him the pot of glue back. You know, I didn't I didn't keep an entire free pot of glue, but that's just what those guys are like, right? And I don't get the impression it was because they were doing it because they knew that they were going to get a video review or anything like that. I just get the impression that that's just the level of care and attention that they have over, that's just the way they are. It's a really, really good event. So I'll mention that as well. The venue's all on the ground floor. There's chairs provided at all the gaming tables. Tables are a little close together. Like it is, you are crammed in there, right? I will say that. So you do kind of rub shoulders awkwardly on moving through between the tables, but the tables themselves are massive, so you've got loads of space around you to lay out all your things and bits and pieces and card and things like that. So that's good. So we were a little crammed in, but otherwise it was pretty brilliant. I talk about accessibility a little bit because this is something that arose at my previous review. So when I went to the Christmas one, I was like, well, just so people are aware, there's no disabled parking, and there is no disabled parking at the venue. I get my laser pointer out here, so there's no disabled parking at the venue here. This is Sanctuary. If you look at that, this is the venue's car park. And then what was pointed out to me that I hadn't noticed, like this is the Witherspoons here, with the black roof. These along here, and these along here. These are all disabled, free parking. That Nottingham Council has put there, right? So you can park there, and I will say this is a really This is like going into a car park here, like a residential car park. This Fox Street's like a dead end up here. Like this is a really calm road as well. You're going to have no trouble getting backwards and forwards across this road from your car. It's not. It looks like it could be a main road, but it's not. It's basically a glorified cul-de-sac. Now, having said that, Jason was perfectly willing to cone off like a double wide space so that I could have some, because I need some space basically to open my door because I'm not very bendy. And he was perfectly willing to do that, perfectly willing, and like checked with me 3 or 4 times over the last couple of months, like, oh, I'll do this for you if you want. I'm like, well, I don't like to put people out. So yeah, no, just knowing that disabled bays were there, that was grand. That was brilliant. So I was quite happy with that. There was a downstairs toilet which was pointed out like this time, so I disabled like able-bodied toilet for most people up the stairs, but there was a staff/disabled toilet that I was able to use this time, so that was great as well. So fantastic, great. I felt really looked after and taken care of. Great job, guys. Well done. Thank you. Appreciate it. I do appreciate it. And I like to think I'm not just going on about for myself, but because, the other guy, I'll mention this again. So the guy I played in the first round is a fellow adult with cerebral palsy. I've actually gone my entire life and never met another adult with cerebral palsy. So that was a really interesting set of conversations, and we compared notes on a couple of things. But, it just goes to show that one person's kind of mentioning stuff, it rises up for everybody. I know there are a lot of people in this hobby who have mobility issues or other issues, and just so you're aware, it's a very welcoming place with very welcoming guys who will bend over backwards to do stuff to accommodate you. So it's got, for whatever it's worth, it's definitely got my seal of approval in that regard. I think that's a really important thing. Yeah. Because that's another thing, isn't it? Like I spoke about in my last video about how I like going to Warhammer World, because Warhammer World's, it's very corporate, with positives and negatives to that. And one of the positives is actually they'll take all this stuff really seriously because they're like bound by law to take it seriously, apart from anything else. Like they're great guys as well, and I'm sure they would want to as well, but like having that extra thing there, it's a big company, so they're gonna, if I go, I can't get up those stairs, or I need this, that, and the other, they will just do it, and they have the staff to do it. Whereas you never know with an independent place. Like I'm going somewhere to play a game next week, back home in Liverpool, and the venue there, like, I can manage stairs, so it's not a massive problem. But the venue there is like, you have to get up this flight and a half of concrete stairs or you can't come into the venue. And there is no other way up. And there's no lift, and there's no nothing, and that's just the way it is. So it's like, well, knowing that places like that do exist, and it's not because people are cruel, it's because people don't have the money or the resources necessarily always to do these things. So I think it's really worth mentioning, right? So I've rambled on enough, but just Jason really gets my seal of approval on this one. It really, and so that goes out to anybody else who's maybe got some light mobility issues that's thinking, oh, I don't really know, going to a random hobby shop. At least this tournament in this venue really couldn't do more for you. Fantastic. Moving on. The terrain. So the terrain was a mix of open, into the dark, and better decima. The tables were lent out by members of the community, and one of the things that they do is they had a contest for the best painted table as voted by the attendees, and the winner was beautiful. It was like a purple and green better decima with LEDs and stuff in. It was absolutely mental. It was brilliant. I didn't take a picture because I'm very bad at content creation and I'm very stupid. If you go look at Christopher Scott Blaw's Instagram, and I'll try and link it in the description, he's got some pictures of his table in his Instagram, so you go have a look at that. It did say they were using the Turning Point Tactics maps as far as possible for open board, but in recognition of the fact that some people might have glued their terrain, like for example, I think like for if you play Chalnath or Morok, like Turning Point Tactics recommend not gluing certain pieces so that you've got slightly more bits of terrain to scatter around the map. Obviously, if people have glued things together, then it's going to slightly differ. But apart from that, they tried to follow the TPT, and then obviously for Better Decima and for Into the Dark, they're following Games Workshop's map pack, right? And the one small negative, again, just to make you aware of, it's the only thing I can find to complain about now about this tournament, because it's fantastic. It's a fantastic event. I mentioned it last time. It bears repeating. You're not guaranteed a variety of games. So 3 of my 4 games this time were on Into the Dark, right? I've talked to Jason about this before, and I totally understand. There's nothing they can do. If they had more space, and more terrain, they would absolutely do what Warhammer World have done and lay out 2 or 3 boards on each table and say, right, round 1 is this, round 2 is this, round 3 is that. But bluntly, they just can't do it. I don't think there's anywhere outside Warhammer World that can manage that. And it's apparently, and he did tell me, that it's something that they used to do when they were running 16-player events. And that Warhammer World have effectively nicked the idea from them. But running where they are now, I think with 64, they are literally at the capacity of the venue, right? So this is one of the things that, and they really, Jason really likes that venue. That's their club. That's where they go every night, or not every night. It's like 2 or 3 nights a week, and they play games, and he has a really good relationship with them, and he doesn't want to run events anywhere else. So it's like, it is what it is. And I think there's a lot of places in the independent tournament scene that have this same problem, where you're not guaranteed that even mix of map types, and I think you just have to be aware of that, and that's fine. As long as you go in and you're aware of that, then good. And in fairness to them, like, I'm sure if I'd gone and had a moan when I got a 3rd Into the Dark in a row, they would have like fudged it around and swapped me around with somebody, because they're really great guys. I just didn't want to ask, because like I just feel bad about putting people out. Like, they were already fudging around and messing it around for people who nobody had to play like more than 1 or more than 2 games on Beta Decima, because certainly the vibe I got from the guys there at Nottingham was that Beta Decima was not a popular thing. So people were playing it, but they didn't really want to force people to play more than a couple of games on it over the course of the tournament. Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about the atmosphere and golden tickets. So last time I talked about how amazing the atmosphere is and how friendly everyone is, and that's absolutely 100% true again. Yeah, I was a bit worried that there were 2 golden tickets up for grabs, that some people would come and just be motivated for that. So you get some people that weren't from that group and didn't normally go to those events, that didn't really get the vibe, that were just coming to try and, to win by hook or by crook and get a free holiday, right? But the golden tickets, as it happens, and were announced after the event was sold out. Like, I think possibly they'd only just line up with Games Workshop after they'd already started like selling the tickets for the event. So there was nobody there who was just coming because of the golden tickets. But I think it does bear saying, once they've had an event and they're known that, their events sometimes get golden tickets, you probably are going to get a couple of people moving forward to sign up to go to these events because they think, right, that's another opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just that I think they do have something really special. And I think once you have a thing like that, you're going to attract the best players. And sometimes the best players, less so in Kill Team, to be perfectly frank with you, than in other game systems. But sometimes the best players are very businesslike, and it's just a tiny bit of a joyless experience. Because they're really stressed and focused and want to win. They want to win, and that's like their thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's best if you're playing against somebody that has the same goals for the game as you do, So I was having a conversation about this with Nick Baton, who's very philosophical, actually, about like the Warhammer hobby. But yeah, So there is that to bear in mind. One other thing I want to mention, I didn't make a slide for, because I've clean forgot, because I'm useless at this, but it fits in here. The balanced data slate. So there's a balanced data slate that came out just before the tournament. The last balanced data slate, pretty wide-ranging balanced data slate, touched a lot of teams, really significantly changed Commandos, Vet Guard, and Harlequins, I think. And some people were asking me in my Discord, like, oh, is there a rules cut off for Not's Kill Team? And I'm like, there wasn't one in the pack, so I don't know. And then like a day or two before the event, Jason announced, we definitely are using the balanced data slate. So I didn't want to speculate. I actually asked him at the event, like, I'm probably going to cover this in my video. Just what's your thinking around not having a rules cut off? Because I know culturally in 40k, they tend to have rules like publication cut offs. And he said to me, well, because the way I was thinking of it, right, perhaps in my naivety, it makes it what I originally thought was it makes it a bit friendlier, doesn't it, if people have a rules cut off, because then, like, they don't have to suddenly learn a whole pile of new stuff. But the way he looks at it, and he's totally convinced me of this now, like, it's actually the casual players aren't that, like, practiced with their teams anyway, and they're going to adapt quite easily to the new rules, and they want to play the most balanced and fun version of the game. And actually, if anybody's disadvantaged by having no rules cut off, it's actually the most elite players, because they will tend to play with the same team over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and forcing them to adapt, the people at the very top to adapt. And it's the people who are more likely to be taking, like, the teams that are just taking a big nerf as well. By forcing them to adapt, you actually, like, make it a friendlier thing. And I hadn't thought about it that way around. In my head, I'd be like, oh, surely having a rules cut off keeps it more casual. But no, his view is just playing with whatever the most current rule set is more casual. And I think I'm one round of that idea. So maybe you've got a thought about that. Let me know in the comments. Like, I'm not trying to start a massive debate. I actually am totally convinced that it was the right call to have the balanced data slate. But I mean, there was a balanced data slate last time as well at Christmas, but I just felt this one really, like, I don't know. I'm not a Commandos player or a Harlequins player or a Vet Guard player. If I was, I might have felt a little bit like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I don't know, because personally I don't really care. So because I was playing like an Eldar team that was only using a third of the available operatives because I thought they looked cool. Like, I am so far away from being a person that really cares about this stuff. But I did kind of try and empathise with all different groups of people, trying to think, well, but yeah, so there was that to talk about as well. So I've talked about it a bit. I think I've made a point, rambled a little bit. Let me know in the comments if you've got a view. Prize supports and freebies. So there was loads of trophies on offer. First, second, and first in terms of, or first, second, and first as I've written there. First, second, and third for best general. So most tournament points, right? The winner of the most tournament points got a golden ticket, right, to go to Atlanta. Playing the Warhammer World Championships. What version of Kill Team are they going to be playing at the World Championships in Atlanta is a really interesting question, but we've already tackled that in a different video. First, second, and third for painting. The best sportsman. The wooden spoon, right, the person that comes last. The best overall, who also won a golden ticket, which was a combination of your tournament points, so how many games you'd won, how many best sportsman votes you'd had, and how many best painted kill team votes you'd had over the course of the thing, exactly the way Warhammer World do it, right? And also there was best terrain for the people that have brought terrain for people to play on. And then many of those things, they all came with a cool little trophy, and then many of them came with like a physical prize as well. So I think best terrain, you won like a box of sable brushes, right? Akalinski sable brushes of some kind. The best painter won like a box of paints. The first, second, and third, like they got kill teams. Like I think one got novitiates and one got Inquisition, and then I think the top prize winner got a copy of Salvation. So real tangible prizes for all these people, in addition to a cool trophy, right? Everybody also got to choose every single person got to choose a confectionery item for the drive home as well, which is mad. Like, just because it was a £20 ticket, and then like £1.50 of it's been spent on a bag of Haribo already, and then all the pizza. He needs to run the country. He needs to run the country. I don't understand where you have the NHS sorted out in no time, right? I don't know how he makes the money stretch this far, but absolutely bowled over. So I got a big bag of Haribo, for the drive home, kept me going. I really like Haribo Super. I know everyone's like, Star Mix are the best, but I really like the Super Mix. I think it's a nicer bag of treats. Always getting sidetracked about food. It's a channel gimmick. We also got 3D conversion parts for a Space Marine Intercessor themed around. There's a Knots Kill Team like Robin Hood style chapter, and they were different to the Intercessor parts that were released at the Christmas Clash. So the idea is, if you go to 5 tournaments, you have 5. I didn't realise they were going to be different. I thought it was going to be 5 sets of the same parts, 5 different parts. So you get 2 shoulder pads and a head each time. Pretty cool, I have to say. Right, that's enough rambling. I've gone on for like 20 minutes. I've not even got into the games, so let's talk about the games. So round 1, I was versus Andrew Welsh. So Andrew Welsh, I was playing versus Compendium Custodes. Dan won 21 points to my 10. This is what happens when I go through the slides and I don't actually, I was updating the last tournament that I went to here, and I was recycling the slide deck because I want to say a lot of the same thing. And I'm like, who's Dan? So I'm just very quickly going through my notes here to check that the 21-10 is correct. It should just say Andrew or Andy won by 21 points to my 10. I don't know why I left the word Dan on there. I'm really sorry. It was a really fun game, and Andrew was a fantastic opponent and a great guy to meet. And actually, it was really funny because we finished reasonably promptly, because it's a close combat team into another close combat team. And we had a big long chat. He's another adult like me with cerebral palsy. He's a little bit more affected than I am. And we were just sort of comparing notes and things like that, and that was a really interesting chat, and it was a great guy to meet and someone I hope to run into again at the next event. I'm not sure what Howling Banshee actually does against Custodes. I know maybe the answer is that I'm playing the team with 2 hands tied behind my back, and I should be using Striking Scorpions and Adara Avengers and things, but it's like, the bit in Indiana Jones, where the guy with the big sword charges up to Indiana and swirls his sword around like a dervish, and then Indiana Jones just shoots him in the face. It felt kind of like that at times. You're trying to pull off all these tricks, and best case scenario, like getting to come with the Custodes, and you're like, yeah, I've done some damage, and the Custodes is like, okay, and I've got how many wounds? You're just going to die. And also, the guns can just kill the Banshees as well. So it's very, very difficult. And part of my problem as well is... so me and Zimbad don't play enough Into the Dark, because we both hate the experience of building the terrain. So the only way Zimbad will play Into the Dark with me is if I build the terrain a day in advance and have it all ready to go when he comes round, because he absolutely refuses point blank. We're not going to sit there and build Into the Dark. It's a pain in the ass. So we just hadn't. We played 2 games on Beta Decima because I wanted to have a go at that, and 1 game on Octarius. And I think that's basically all the... 2 games on Octarius, 2 games on Beta Decima. And I think that's basically all the practice I had with the Banshees. So I didn't really know what I was doing, right? But it was a fun game against a great opponent, and I gave Andrew my vote for most sporting because he was a really calm guy, happy to let, I forgot to do this, you mind if I just put this on, and that cut both ways. Really pleasant chat, really pleasant game. Yeah, I received a bit of a drubbing, no one wants to lose by 11 points, but it was fun. I had fun, nicely painted models on both sides. It was a great time. Next game was against a guy called Matthew Surridge. So again, I was playing Into the Dark Intercession, and Matt won 20 to my 10. So hey, I've closed the gap by 1 point. He scored 1 point less, so I'm improving, right? Honestly, pretty similar. It's not Matt's fault. Pretty similar to the previous game. Intercession, he went for, I think it was all gun intercession. It's they can just kill 2 elves a turn unless I'm playing in a very clever way so that he can't see my guys, and I wasn't playing in a very clever way. Now, I think I managed to blend up about 2 of the intercessors, because an intercessor's a little easier to kill in combat than a custode. So I had a couple of turns where my stuff worked and the dice were in my favour and intercession guys got blended, but it was just the relentless, the relentless bolters that just were very accurate and just were able to kill the Banshees pretty easily. But it was a good fun game. Ironically, I remembered I voted for Matthew as best painted, and Matthew actually went on to win the best overall by 1 point. So you're welcome. You're welcome for your golden ticket, Matt. And it was a pretty close run thing as to who was going to get best painted from me. So that every point counts. But yeah, it's the one game I forgot to take a photograph, and it's the one where I nominated as best painted. It's just really annoyed me. But I went through my phone. I just totally blanked on taking a photograph of this game, which annoys me a little bit. But there you go. But yeah. So then it was lunchtime and the painting contest. I've already talked about how there was loads of lunch, loads of pizza. I just can't understand it. Painting competition was absolutely fierce again, right? If I'm being honest, like really, really honest, it was a bit... There was slightly less fierce than last time, in that, like, last time there was 1 or 2 really, really, really over-the-top dioramas. This time, the focus was more on immaculately painted models. Like, there definitely were diorama bases, but there wasn't, like, the real over-the-top things that we had last time, which I thought was actually... Like, I like a diorama base. I've done a diorama base, but I like the miniatures to stand first and foremost, so that was really good. I entered my Banshees. If I wasn't ashamed to enter them or anything like that. If you're on the Discord, you'll know I only finished painting these on Good Friday. They were very much a last-minute job. I'm happy with them. Like, I really genuinely am. I think they look good. I don't think I met the standard that I set for myself with my Lamenters. I think if I hadn't left them quite so last minute, I might have tried to do something on the power swords with a bit of freehand. Similar to how I did the Lamenters chapter badges. Like, when you're painting, like, and you've got half an eye on the painting competition, part of the thing is what you actually try and do. And I think I executed these perfectly for what I wanted to do, but I should have done something else just to show off a little bit more skill. I don't know. So I didn't have particularly high expectations. I didn't come anywhere first, second, or third in the painting competition, but I feel like I gave a good accounting of myself, right? And I know they look cool. I'm proud to have them. I think they look good. So third game was actually against Nick Baton, the Warhammer TV guy, and I was actually really pleased that I'd had breakfast with him, because then, like, I'd gotten the slight kind of starstruck, like, oh, you're the guy off Warhammer TV, out of my system, and we were able to just play a really good game of Kill Team. I will just say he's a really decent bloke in person. Like, sometimes when you meet people like that, they can be like a bit aloof and a bit like, oh, I work for Games Workshop and you're just a pleb. Nothing like that at all, right? Nothing like that at all. Really interesting guy, quite philosophical about the hobby. And I was chatting to him about all kinds of things, like how long it takes to make those battle reports for Warhammer TV. Really interesting, really enlightening. And I said to him, like, it's a real testament for how much you love Warhammer that you've come to do this on your Saturday. Like, it's like if you worked at a chocolate factory, you might get a bit sick of a crunchy, like. And he said to me, yeah, but if you've been eating crunchies all week, you might still fancy a Whisper on the weekend. And so, genuinely, he's just like a hobbyist. Great guy. So we were playing Into the Dark versus, he was playing as Phobos. He won 18-10. Look, I'm closing the gap. See, I've gone from 21-10, 20-10, and now 18-10. It's the small victories. This did feel a lot like the third in a series of similar games, right? So I'm on Into the Dark again. I'm fighting Marines again. And I tried to give a good game and to keep positive and to keep and hopefully I succeeded in that. But, like, a little part of me was thinking, can I have some, like, Vet Guard open board something to do, please. Like, it's just the thing where, again, the Phobos can shoot and kill you, and shoot again and kill you again, and it's like, okay. Now, and it was loot, because again, my fault, tying one hand behind my back. If I'd taken just one, like, Dire Avenger to stand on the home objective, as it were, and continually loot it, right? There is the problem. You're playing a cold combat team and you're on loot. You've got to have guys that stand at the back and loot the things. And it's like such a pain in the backside. Nick actually gave me some tips at the end of the game. He was like, "Look, why you need to turn one, you need to position yourself behind a closed door, so that turn two you can open the door, charge through, and assault a guy." And it's like, that sounds like such an obvious thing, but because I don't play very much Into the Dark, and because I hadn't ever practiced Into the Dark with a combat team, and I'd got it into my head that you can't charge through a door and open it during a charge move, which is true, but if you end your move in base-to-base contact with the door, and then you open it and charge through, and so I feel like I was... And do you know, I'm really thankful, because some people... Like, and it frustrates me a little bit. I'm going to go off on a slight mad one, right? It frustrates me a little bit. People, and this goes for gaming and painting as well, people don't like, at the moment, to give you any kind of unsolicited feedback. Because I think people have gotten a bit funny about, like, oh, if I tell somebody something, will they think that I'm condescending to them, and I'm this, and I'm that, and the other? And it's like, I flipping love feedback. You know, obviously tone is important, but I'd rather somebody was actually slightly rude in giving me, which Nick wasn't, by the way. He gave it in a very humble and a very polite way. But just as a general term, I'd rather somebody was quite rude giving feedback, because at least then you've got the feedback, than just say nothing and let you carry on obliviously failing for the rest of your life or something. It's like when there was a comment on the on the channel that was like, hey, can you try and position the microphone more centrally and not move your face around nearly as much? And I've changed the whole way I sit, and I have my hand on my mouse, and like, because it hadn't occurred to me. Like, never... I don't know if I can say this as a rule, but certainly if you're ever interacting with me, right, don't assume that something's so obvious that you don't have to mention it, and like, oh, surely he's thought of that, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, please. I think culturally we need to be more happy to give people useful feedback so people can improve. I think we need to get over this mentality of everybody being like one, like, you know, you can improve this, and then they have a nervous breakdown. Everyone's walking on eggshells, I feel like, all the time with everybody else, and that's wrong. So I was really, really thrilled to get a piece of feedback. I don't know if Nick's going to watch this or not. Probably not. So he probably will never know. But thank you anyway. Like, it's really important, I think, to give people feedback. And that made me really, like, I was really ready to go into my last fourth round of Into the Dark. And I was like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. And then I finally got to play on an open board. So this is life, isn't it? But in reality, I was thrilled to get an open board. I was playing against a fella called Billy Brown. I was playing an open board game versus Kazakin. I won 17 to his 16. I was really pleased to be playing on an open table. I think Billy said to me that this is his third game in a row where he had open board corner deployment. And it's that thing. I already said it's the only negative about the whole tournament. And I don't think there's anything to do about it. I genuinely don't, right? But it's just that thing where you can go and you can look at the draw means you can have very similar games potentially. But I was pleased to be fighting on an open board and against something that I could reliably kill on the charge. Now, Billy did something that I've done many, many times with Kazakin, because I've mained Kazakin for a good long while, right, where you trade away your plasma and you melt it too cheerfully. Like, he got a really good kill with the plasma gun, and then I was able to kill the plasma gunner. He got a really good kill with the melter gunner, and I was able to then kill the melter gunner. And you might think, well, that's going to work out for Billy because Kazakin at 10. Okay, and you're only 8, right? But the thing is, the thing where Kazakin really get let down is that once they lose, if they lose their plasma and their melter and their grenade launcher, like, you've got all these characters like the medic and the demo guy and the Auspex fella and whatever else that just aren't going to do anything with their las guns. So that's and I never solved that problem, but I I was playing against them and I could feel what was happening to him and that loss of momentum. That all this said, I only won by 1 damn point, right? So it wasn't like I steamrolled the guy. Because, and I did have a lot of luck on my side as well. Like, there was one moment where it was an Overwatch, and I'm like, I can Overwatch with my Shuriken pistol. I hit off 5s because I'm injured, and I rolled 2 6s and a 5. So with Rending, that's 3 crits, and that just took a guardsman from fine to dead. Which, now I don't know if that particular, guardsman with it would have done nothing, but that was certainly a moment that could have been the moment that lost Billy the game, for all I know, So I'm not going to sit up here and give it beats like, oh yes, I understand Kazakin, and he made all these mistakes, and I was able to capitalise on them. But I did feel like he was doing that a little tiny bit, and that was part of the tableau that made up the entire game. Fair enough. Right, let's get on to the placings. Wow, I've made those too small, but never fear. I can really professionally just use this to fix that. So we've got the winner here, Mr. Christopher Scott Bloor with Blooded, right? Second place was Ben Palin with Hyritex Circle. Third place, Sirkan with Felgor Ravagers. Fourth place, Peter Worsley with Kazakin. Fifth was Matthew Surridge with Intercession. And then number 6, Ryan Slater with Pathfinders. Number 7, Tom Robinson with Kazakin. Number 8 was Kev with Talons of the Emperor. Not the Talons team that I've played, but another Talons team. 9th was Guy Barton with Wormblade. And 10th was Ryan Wilson with Halfkin Salvagers. That's pretty interesting. So, really varied. I think really, really well done to Chris for winning. I felt sure, looking at who was there, I was like, well, Ryan's going to win and he's going to come first because he's Ryan and that's what he's going to do because he's really good at the game. It was funny because it was Ryan and Chris that were the 2 guys that went representing England anyway to the World Championships last time, right? And I just surely thought, Ryan's going to pick up his golden ticket, but no, it was Chris. And I think Chris went last year, but last year he went via the best overall ticket at Warhammer World, and I think there's a few people who need to shut up now, because I think there was a few people that were saying, oh yeah, but he didn't really, he didn't come first, he didn't win a tournament, he's a nice guy, and he did some painting and blah, 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 and now he's come first to the 63-player tournament, so shut up. I wonder if he felt he had a point to prove and he just played his socks off. But this guy's the real Renaissance man, because he also won the terrain painting competition. Yeah, man, I just want him to go to Worlds and qualify for the actual the what's it called, the champions bracket, and get in there and mix it up with all the real top players, because he is a top bloke. Also a fellow computer science teacher, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so well done. And I was down at 53rd. I don't play to win, and I don't really have any expectation of that. But I like to see a little bit of improvement over time. I think last time I went with my Strikeforce Justin, I was in the 20s. I was 21st, and I was genuinely happy with that, right? To be down on 53rd is a bit well, I've gone backwards. And that's the part that's not a nice feeling, right? It's not that I did badly, it's the fact that last time and I've gone backwards. And I think, I'll talk more around that in a second, actually. I'll talk more about that in a second. Let me just get so analysis. First couple of things I want to say is I had a really great time. I'm very much looking forward to the next one, whenever that may be. Right, maybe in the summer, guys. That would be nice. In many ways, better than Warhammer World. I said that last time. I stand by it again. Cheaper, more casual and friendly, better food, better prizes. Okay, Warhammer World does still have a few advantages. Crucially, it's that guaranteed mix of Into the Dark versus Open. They haven't run a weekend event since Better Decima came out, so I don't even know if Warhammer World would be able to do each table has 3 boards on, so you get a guaranteed mix of Into the Dark versus Open versus Better Decima. They should be able to, though, because they're the company and they can just go down to the factory and be like, haha, 57 Better Decima boards, please. And that surely, but I know it doesn't quite work like that, but you'd think maybe they could manage it. To be honest with you, I really hope that the Warhammer World haven't yet done. They need to do a competitive event. There needs to be a competitive Warhammer World event that runs with Better Decima. They haven't. Last event they run, they had like 1 Better Decima table because it had just come out like that week or something, and it was like, oh, if you want to, you can come to the front and ask to use the Better Decima table. But yeah, I hope there's a new Warhammer World event soon as well. There is more space at Warhammer World as well, just in terms of walking around and not constantly barging into people. But it's such a minor thing. But those are the only 2 negatives I can possibly say. Otherwise, they're running a better event at Not Skill Team. They really are. I'm going to be pretending both. Certainly am. Right, I don't think Eldar are for me. This is basically my conclusion. And Zimbad's always on at me, like, you've got to find the kind of team that you can play and that suits your play style. And I think at the moment, if I've learned anything, it's that I do better with a team that can take a hit. Like an elite team of some kind that can take a bit of a hit, because as far as I see, I am not good enough and don't play enough games on the different formats against the different teams to be able to. And it's about the thing about practicing, right? The thing about playing against a good mix of teams on a good mix of tables is that you are more able to anticipate what your opponent's going to do, right? Whereas I've never played against Custodes on Into the Dark ever, right? So that was a first. I have played against Intercession on Into the Dark, but I've never won against them. I've never played against Phobos and Into the Dark, right? So, whereas the game where I did the best, I was playing against Kazakin, a team that I've played as, so I could anticipate, and I've played a lot of games on Octarius, so I could anticipate more what they were going to do. I think that's kind of my issue. Now, so therefore, I want to play a Space Marine team where actually I can make the odd mistake and take a shot and react and do things. So basically, I'm really ready for the Night Lords. I think that's going to be the next team that I try and main, because I'm really excited to hobby them. I think they look really cool. I think their rules are pretty cool, and I think they look pretty, like, forgiving in terms of not getting blasted off the table, just in terms of them being Space Marines with power armor and that in Midnight Clad rule. Just, yeah, they might be my thing. Who knows, right? Yeah. Let's have some final thoughts. Look, I really enjoyed myself. I really did, despite coming 50, whatever it was. I really did have a great time. It was great to see a number of people from the channel. Jinna the Chef was there and said hello, and it was nice to meet him in person. And he came with a couple of mates. And I think there was a lot of people there that had come to this event because of the review that I gave the previous event, which is like, I'm really powerful. I've influenced at least one person. So I am an influencer. But that's kind of ridiculous. Be kind to each other, right? If I'm going to be an influencer, I better take some social responsibility. Anyway, I also got a few weird. The channel's not that big, right? But but also it's not the biggest community. So I got a few of these weird one-way looks of recognition that I've started to notice for the first time, where people are like, look at you, and you're thinking, oh, is he looking at me? And thinking, oh, that's Tabletop Impulse, that is. Like, it's weird because I guess for a lot of you watching this, you feel like you know me really well, and I have no idea what you look like. So please, 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 please feel able to. You don't have to. You don't owe me the time of day, but please feel able to, if you want to, and you see me in person at one of these events, to come up and be like, hey, hi, my name's John, and I watch your channel, and I really hate it, and this, that, and the other, and I'll take all that on board, and that's valued, right? So just a thing I'm going to throw out there. Because you see someone and they give you a kind of a look, and you're like, oh, he looks about the right profile to be going to the Kill Team event, and he's given me a meaningful look. Shall I go over and introduce myself? What if it's just some guy on his way to a business meeting in Mansfield? Like, that would be very cringe. So please, the onus is on you to say hello. Okay. Were you at the event? Was there any nuance or key information that I missed? Or, crucially, if you were one of my 4 opponents, is there anything that I've totally misremembered? Please do shout up. Big thanks to all the people that support me, both by subscribing. We're trying to get to that magical. Apparently, when you get 10k subscribers, that's when Games Workshop offer you product to review, or so I've been told. Right, on the rumour, the grape rumour vine millverse. So let's see if that's a thing. Right, we're a long way to go. But also a big thank you to those people that support me directly financially by being members of the channel, especially Mr. Nightfall and Mr. Massive Crit, who are subscribed at the highest possible tier and therefore get themselves a personal shout out and thanks at the end of every single video. Alright guys, thank you. That's been a 45-minute ramble about a really, really good tournament that you should consider going to the next one. Whenever they announce the next one, there will be I will pop it in the Discord, in the meetup section. Join the Discord, it's free, it's cool, full of cool people. A lot of the Not Skill Team guys are in there, right? So yeah, have at it. Alright, see you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye, 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 goodbye.